Hey everybody, welcome to another week here of the Map 5 podcast. Big Hungry Phil at the top of the show. And for today's episode, as well as all the Tier 2 and Tier 3 news, we have the wonderful Bailey with us to talk about her experiences in Overwatch. Bailey, welcome to the podcast. Why don't you just tell us a small amount about yourself?
Yeah, thanks for having me. My name's Bailey. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm a project manager on the Overwatch League team and also our product lead for Calling All Heroes.
I think project manager might not be the most exciting sounding job title, but some of the stuff you get to do, I think, is a little bit cooler than that. I do have a very quick obligatory note here from Ocean, who you will notice is not here today. That's because he's currently on a plane somewhere, I guess, over the Atlantic. I don't think he's been in the air long enough to have hit mainland stateside yet. On his way to Anaheim for the grand finals, but he did want to say, Bailey, that he really wishes he was here and could have done this episode, and hopefully you guys will get to meet up in Anaheim instead.
Heck yeah, looking forward to it.
Cool. Right, let's crack through the news then so that we can get to the meat of the episode. Starting off with relatively big news here. Young and Beautiful moving back to EMA and picking up one heck of a roster. I think we have to take a minute here to express a little bit of sadness that the GeForce roster was dropped by YAB to facilitate the move back to EMA. We hope that the GeForce guys land on their feet and find a new way to play together, or at least keep on their path to pro journey. But yeah, Lorsish, Vestola, Sauna, Maimone, Dollar, and Exarath. That's quite a roster, guys.
Stacked.
That is
Yeah.
nutty. That is absolutely nutty. And it's interesting going into a Winston meta with this as well. It will have Lulsters take up that mantle, I would imagine. But the real standouts, I mean, they're all awesome. Plus, you have John Underscore coaching
of
this
course.
group, who is just one of the biggest brains in the game, period. Such an incredible understanding of macro and meta, and just I've personally gotten coaching from John Underscore, and it's come off the recommendation of other T1 casters who have said something similar. So can't underestimate the brains behind it all. But the one that really stand out to me is Dala and Exo. Like that back line is nutty. That was the Falcons back line. They have won Contenders EU multiple times already. This roster is nasty. I'm so happy for Yab. And they always have great branding too. Always.
Yeah.
I want those skins. I mean, I've said this multiple times. I want the rainbow kind of ombre skins that are like iridescent. Oh my god! But more importantly is Sauna. And Sauna is somebody that Phil and I actually casted during the Kanazaka Flash Ops tournament. This is a young man, the Finnish hit scan player. I think once he turns 18, if he's not already done it, I don't think he's 18 yet.
I think he might be, actually.
I'd have to go look real quick while I'm talking about this. But, I mean, just the fact that he has not been picked up yet might be a little bit of a miss, because we were very impressed with the Tracer, especially seeing the Tracer come out today in the Fuel Spark series, where we saw Alpha Yi and Sparkle kind of going at it against each other, trying to mix up the meta just a little bit. I think that we could, possibly see Tracer coming back into a little bit of favor. And I'm looking right now, Sauna.
He
is 18.
In your defense, Billy, 18 at the start of this month, so only just unfortunately eligible.
So yeah, I mean that's my standout. I think this gamer is absolutely going to crack out, especially if they have a good Sojourn.
Yeah, absolutely. But that is not the only EU roster we've got to look at.
It's true.
I mean, look, I picked that up like it was my transition because I was trying to help smooth things through here, but it very clearly says Jeff on the runner show.
It does. I just pulled that up as you mentioned. I was like, oh yeah, this is mine. This is mine. Yep. We've got the winners of your season 1 Open Division coming back with a new roster, and that is Munich Esports. And I mean, hey, Don finding a home after returning to T2, no longer playing for Paris Eternal. Found a home with this team. Also a scary team. I don't know how they'll compare to that Yab roster, but this is definitely one we'll see in contenders. Like, there's just the names on this roster. There's no way this crew doesn't make it out of Open Division.
Yeah, I think something pretty bad's got to have happened to them for them to not make it out of OD. So they should be a contenders roster at that strength.
Moving on then. That comes up to my first topic here. T1 have picked up Arpin, previously of Kangdu Panthera, released on the 28th of October, and now has been picked up just the same day by T1. So very quick, I was reading through through what Arpin said on his personal page, and he really thanked them for he thanked Panthera for respecting his decision to want to move to a better org, and well, now T1 look even stronger with this pickup.
Yeah, I guess T1 is one of the few academy teams left in Tier 2. Is like a really strong option if you want to build your career, particularly as they have a direct talent pipeline through to the Philadelphia Fusion. So yeah, I can't imagine anybody going, no, I don't want you to advance your career and move to this academy team.
And I mean, I think that's a good place to plug Korean Contenders, which is actually going to start really soon. We've got Korean Contenders starting next Monday, immediately following the Overwatch League Grand Finals. So as I quickly pull up my calendar here, that is Monday the 7th. That Korean Contenders will begin. So we'll get to see T1 and all the rest of the players there. And kick off season 2 of Contenders proper.
Yeah, we don't quite know what that's going to look like for casters, because the good chunk of the Korean Contenders casters for the English language broadcast will be in Anaheim and might not have gotten home by then. So we'll see what that looks like.
I know for sure LaFon will still be out of town. He's not getting back until Wednesday. And
I think Paul too, Avril
and Achilleos, I believe, are going to be in Anaheim. So
it's going to be Pixie covering all 4 roles until everyone gets back.
It's just Pixie solo casting Korean Contenders.
I would watch so much of that.
I would absolutely watch that.
Maybe they pull Wolf out of retirement on the Overwatch site since he's there.
That would be a treat.
That would be a treat.
I miss Wolf.
So do
Same.
I. He's so good. He's
all
so
right.
Good.
That kind of is a good segue into a little bit of a recap, as we did have Open Division start here this past weekend. So we've gone through 4 rounds of that, and I'm not even sure if this is my news item, to be honest. It is. Look, I just guessed. I thought I picked this up, and I just guessed, and I guessed correctly.
I apparently have no more news items for the rest of this section. So, like, if a ball gets dropped, it's not on me.
Fair enough. So let me make sure I've got the right. Oh, nope, that's NA. We're just going to jump to EU here. NA, they haven't updated stuff, and it's pretty difficult to read. The only one I will comment on NA is no, it's not Strawberry. The 5th seed in NA is Riz Academy. And that is some of the players from GeForce, or what was in the Young and Beautiful NA roster. So just wanted to follow up that a lot of them have found a home and are doing well, look to have made it into that 5th round, which is the all-important top 16. So we'll keep an eye out for them as they go up against other contenders teams that you would recognize from NA. But EU, they made at least we got a little bit more of a comprehensive bracket we can look at and kind of figure out who these top 16 are. Of course, Young and Beautiful are going to be there with that roster, no surprise. Angels, Raspberry Racers, Fourth Dimension, Twisted Minds, Skeng. This is an interesting one. Nightshades is also one I'm not super familiar with, and then that Munich Esports roster.
What's the I've already forgotten the name and I can't make it out on my preview. The Skeng roster, who's on that?
I was just about to pull that up. It's Suna, Goku, Goku being
cool.
kind of Yezen Jr.
Yes, and Julia.
Melio, Choose, Alex is on that roster. That's a really off. Then you have FD God and Canale. So that's an interesting roster, actually.
Yeah, that's real interesting. Oh well, I guess we see what we do. They're about to enter the pointy end of the bracket.
I'm second guessing myself. Is Goku the fire player or the tracer player? Now I'm second guessing.
Goku is the fire player. Yobi is the tracer player.
You're right. Yeah. That's exactly how. There you go. Thank you. See, that's what. Never second guess yourself, friends. That's one of these days. I'll actually learn some confidence in my memory.
Someday.
Someday. And then Nightshades is another one that is just I didn't recognize. I'm not very familiar with these players, so I mean these are some new names to kind of keep an eye on. Any of these stand out to you? We got Avoria, Killa, Luckstar. Luckstar I recognize. Crocs, Gara, and Reviews.
So Crocs I know from a few years back. He played on Samsung Morning Stars the last time I saw him, I think.
Angry Titans as well, apparently.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was an AT person too.
Maybe I'm getting confused. Maybe he wasn't on Samsung Morning Stars, but he was around at the same kind of time as Samsung Morning Stars were playing.
Yeah, and there's a little bit of a gap between being on Angry Titans at the end of 2020 and then now.
Well, I mean, that's one of the nice things about the move to Overwatch 2 is we are seeing some old pros come back and find some enjoyment in the game again. So great, more of it.
Yeah, new faces to keep an eye on. Moving up through past the pro. Love it. Absolutely love it.
Well, that brings me up next. We're going to talk about Open Division down in Australia and New Zealand. They are into the business end, the pointy end, as Phil put it so kindly earlier. JNGK, previously of, I believe, Korean contenders.
It's a pack roster. JNGK,
yeah. Yep. Looks like they're all. I mean, they look fantastic. Wilby, who really shocked everybody in the Shimada showdown, is in the upper bracket final against JNGK. Order actually was put down by JNGK into the lower bracket semifinals, and Maywing has made a fantastic run through the lower bracket round, going down in the first game of the upper bracket quarterfinals, and has made their run all the way through to the lower bracket semifinals to take on who took them there, Order. So Order, that hopefully they're going to be able to get some revenge. I still think Order is probably one of the top 3 teams in the Open Division, if not, a little bit higher.
Well, that's one of the weird things about Open Division this season, right? Is that if you're a contenders team, you can go play in Open Division, which is why we're seeing some of these names we wouldn't expect to see in Open Division. Jeff, can you bring up that page again for me?
Of course.
Scroll up a bit. Am I being blind, or was there an Altiora roster?
There is an Altiora.
There is an like the bloody spread of Altiora all over the globe. Altiora OCE. I didn't know they were fielding a roster, but that's cool.
Yeah, Avoided has an OCE roster too.
So I know that there is an Avoided OCE. I don't know if they're affiliated. I will have to go and check with my Avoided contacts. Well, they're not Avoided anymore. So there's that split between Avoided and So exactly what that Avoided OCE roster is, I don't know. Yeah, it's a little weird.
I mean, big standout for me for this Altiora roster, just because I remember Jeff and Ethan casting it. It was the OCE or the ACE, ACE tournament that went on. They actually took third, and it was Akame that was on that team and absolutely lit it up. And nice to see them coming back around here. Kind of mixed results through 2020 and 2021. But now they took 7th and 8th through the Shimada showdown. So, you know what? Looks like they're on the up and up here.
Yep, that was on Far East Society. Fun fact that JNGK was also part of this. No, I'm sorry. It was players from that were competed in this, not the team themselves. But, yeah.
And as the aforementioned Shimada Showdown brings us to our next item, Dire Wolves actually take ground zero 4-3 in the grand final of said tournament to win it. And I tell you what, if you did not have a chance to watch it, which I have watched bits and pieces of it, It was the series that didn't want to end.
No.
That was a phenomenal. That was some of the most competitive ANZ has ever been.
Yeah, it was fantastic. It was fabulous. It was gripping. It was just absolutely thrilling to watch. My heart was pounding. Whew. Good stuff from them. So,
And I think for Direwolves, it was like 16 straight rounds of
it was
Overwatch because the lower
16
bracket
straight
run.
rounds of Overwatch. Yeah, 16 maps. And it was
Enough
a
to drive a
5-map
man mad.
series, a 4-map series, and a 7-map series.
Oh my god.
All back to back.
those
I would've-
gamers were exhausted.
I would have died. I would have literally died.
It was phenomenal to watch. I have no idea how they maintain focus. Like my brain would have just been absolutely fried. I don't know how they were. I mean, it's one thing to do, like, it's bad enough to try to do 16 maps of comp in a row, right? Like you think about that and you start just going on autopilot and you're just like, what am I doing? Like, why am I positioned here? To do that at like the highest level of competition in that region is another thing entirely.
Yeah.
There's so much more you have to juggle, and your brain has to be like your bandwidth has to be fully open and just downloading 100% of the time. I have no idea how they did. Like, that is such a feat. And it to put in perspective that feat, it was Avril's all-time record for number of maps cast. So like throughout his casting career, he hasn't seen a single. Yeah, that's really saying something, genuinely.
Yeah.
There we go. Finally here on the lower third. I got it. I got the lower third, y'all. We're good.
Hooray.
All right, let's move on. Which I assume by the silence means it's my turn.
It is, I'm afraid. Sorry.
Let's wait. Is this in Run a Show? No, never mind. We're skipping the Spectre thing. Spectre's LFT for Al. All right, cool. Moving on.
Oh, yeah, done. LFT posts aren't news. It's fine. That's what Twitter's for.
Yeah. Go Spectra. You're a big fan. I hope you find a home. But moving forward to something way more interesting personally. Vancouver Titans have announced a open tryouts for the Calling All Heroes tournament. This is huge. This is a T1 organization putting together a team and trying to create a space for this tournament that highlights marginalized genders, and one of our T1 organizations coming through and supporting that and putting their resources into it, monstrous. So if you would like to compete in this, I highly recommend. There's a link here. It's pinned tweet on the Vancouver Titans Twitter. They have it front and center for you. The first thing you see when you go to their profile, there is a link in that pinned tweet. Please go sign up. This is awesome. I wish more T1 teams would do this.
Oh, sorry to cut you off. I think also the tryouts are starting this Wednesday as well, if you are interested.
Good to know.
Yeah, but I believe signups are still open. So if you're watching this, after Wednesday, might be a little late, and that's I didn't know that was happening basically until Bailey said, "Hey, do you know that Vancouver Titans are doing this?" But it is a very, very cool initiative. I'd love to see this from more Overwatch League teams.
Well, okay. According to the graphic here, registration will continue through November 5th. So there is still time. They're doing some preliminary trials starting on the 2nd. Mm-hmm. So they are going to start running some trials, but it doesn't mean it's too late. You got until November 5th to get on this list.
Fantastic.
That's awesome.
That's lovely. I'll pick up the last news item then. We're talking about the Calling All Heroes Challengers, qualifier number 1, just happened this past week? I guess last week.
Yeah.
It ended on last Sunday.
I think we were live with the podcast whilst the finals were happening.
Yeah, I believe that. Yeah, it did finish up last Monday.
Yeah. So your winner coming out here, Altior Artemis. Taking down their sisters in Altior Polaris in the grand final, 1:30 time zone, and Shikigami battled it out for 3rd and 4th. I'm not sure. I didn't have a chance to look to see. It is Altior. Well, it doesn't say.
It was 2 Altior teams ended up in the finals.
Yeah.
Right. And then Shikigami got 3rd.
Shikigami got 3rd. Okay. I didn't see that at the bottom of it. So I mean, I loved watching it. It was fantastic to see all the representation on the screen. I think this is such a huge initiative, and Pizza Bailey here is going to be giving us a behind the scenes look on how it came to be, what it is, what the impetus was behind getting it started, this initiative that now, we've got an owl team really spearheading. So, I mean, the competition itself was top notch. The casting was good. And I mean, it was on Twitch and YouTube, and there's a lot of people in there watching it. So this is a good look for the Overwatch League, and I can't wait to pick Bailey's brain coming up here. You're on notice, Bailey. That we're going to be picking your brain now.
I'm ready for it. Don't worry.
Before we get into that, I just want to highlight whispers real quick from Shikigami, because I'm still just beside myself with their performance on the Widowmaker in particular. I mean, it was just outstanding. Like, it was just phenomenal play. So I just wanted to give a quick shout out there. That's all.
I was going to say we haven't. Don't worry, we haven't sprung this run of show on Bailey. She knows roughly what we're about to talk about. There are no hardball questions. There are no curveballs. Nope. So without further ado, Bailey, thank you again for coming to talk to us today. Always like getting to talk to community members, and a community member in a role that we haven't really had chance to talk to. So before we get into like calling our heroes, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself first?
Right, yeah. So I'm obviously the boring title of project manager at Overwatch League, but I do quite a few things. I have a bit of a hand, and I would say most of our Overwatch esports products, be that Path to Pro, Overwatch League, and Calling All Heroes. And I kind of help just on the operations side and seeing everything through. And then specifically with Calling All Heroes, I'm basically kind of like our product lead or product manager, whatever buzzword you want to use. But I help lead the program kind of to where we are now, and have a big like hand in bringing all of our teams here at the Overwatch League and the Overwatch teams to make it happen.
See, and the other thing that we know you from specifically is we have been lucky enough to participate in the co-streaming program, and I've had a few messages from you saying, hey, would you like to come back? Which, let me tell you, always brightens my day to know we're being asked back.
Yes.
So it feels like you've got a lot of fingers and a lot of pies. Totally.
Yeah, I would say I kind of run our co-streaming program for the Overwatch League and hopefully some of our other Overwatch products. TBD. But it's always exciting to kind of get folks like you all who are so interested in Overwatch League and just Overwatch in general. And just we want to kind of enable folks like yourself just to make content because it helps everyone, you know?
Totally. So obviously you didn't arrive fully formed at Overwatch League ready to go. You've had a journey to get from where you were to Overwatch League. What's your journey through the Overwatch scene community looked like? Because we know you before this from things like Elo Hell.
Yeah, totally. Oh gosh, it's where to start is always the tough part with that question. I would say I actually got my start in Overwatch specifically competing. I used to compete as a main support player back when I was actually good at the game and could hold over 4K ring. Not anymore. I don't have that kind of time. But I used to compete, and then through that, I kind of got involved with coaching. I used to actually coach a couple of contenders teams way back in the day. Yeah.
Which ones?
Bermuda was the big one.
I remember Bermuda.
I remember Bermuda.
That's right, awesome. Yeah. I know, it's such a throwback. Every time I mention it, everyone's like, oh yeah, that roster.
That is quite the throwback.
Oh, totally. Yeah. It always brings me back, and it's fun to see, talk about. But I would say also, as you mentioned before, I've had a really big hand in Elo Hell Esports. I was kind of one of our founding members and our event director for... I was there for almost like 3 years or so from inception. I remember the funny little tidbit I always gave was I was the 6th person to join the Elo Hell Discord.
Oh, wow.
So was there for a while, and through that, I kind of just developed a lot of skills. I did a bunch of stuff in Overwatch. I've been an admin for contenders. I coached a contenders team. I competed in tier 3. I've run events for Overwatch League teams, and then now through all that experience, I'm now at the Overwatch League.
So it sounds like you've done almost everything except be a caster. So we've got to find an opening for you there just to tick that box as well.
Yes.
I'd love to.
Let's see what we can do.
Hit the whole gauntlet.
Yeah.
I must say that if it wasn't for EHE, I wouldn't be here. So I appreciate your work there so much. Like that was a huge catalyst for me getting from amateur console caster to actually getting exposed to the bigger picture.
That's
I
awesome.
actually have a personal story with I call her Pizza Penguin. There's a sub channel for those of us in the Rainbow Mafia in Elo Hell, and seeing how Bailey navigated their day. Um, she gave me the strength to be openly gay as a caster and not be ashamed of it and not try to hide behind it anymore. So I wanted to say a personal thank you to Bailey for showing me the way as far as that, because you were actually a big catalyst for me just opening up to everybody and just being my complete, honest, authentic self. And you were a big reason for that. Phil was the other reason later on down the line. So, but yeah, big props to you, Bailey.
Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate the kind words. It's always so great to see folks like yourself and myself who are just involved like in esports as a whole. I think like the representation always can be growing and getting better. It's so great because I think each person kind of pushes like the dominoes down, and it's just more and more, and it's always so great. And it's awesome to kind of see what you've done and your growth and everything that you've been putting on together.
And I think that gives us a nice organic segue into one of our next talking points, which was like the catalyst. Not that we wouldn't have been interested to talk to you anyway, but the catalyst for getting you on here today was, of course, the Calling All Heroes Challenges initiative. And we have spoken a little bit about this before the episode started, but could you tell us a little bit about how all that came together?
Yeah, totally. So I would say that actually, I joined Overwatch League in about April of this year. So I've only been there for about 7 months or so. Oh gosh, so not very long at all. But once I joined, I think like day 2, I got approached about Calling All Heroes, and they're like, "You would be a great fit. Do you want to work on this?" And then took it from there. But I would say from the inspiration that I've heard is pretty much like overall, I think internally we all identified it. And this is something that I think anyone kind of notices is just that gender diversity across esports is very low. And we wanted to do something to kind of solve that. So specifically, the 2 areas that we're targeting initially with Calling Out Heroes initiative is competitive and casting. We want to help provide those resources and help like make it equal playing field because it's not really equitable at the moment. So we're hoping through this programming, it's a good way to kind of boost that. And I also want to give a general shout out to, I'd say like sometimes a lot of people compare programs, but I would say that every single program that does occur in other gender inclusivity programs just kind of boosts the overall community and brings visibility to that. And for us, it's we're hoping to use this platform to bring visibility and help also make people feel comfortable in the space, and that just helps boost participation across the board.
Yeah, I think there's a tendency in esports specifically to view other esports in a similar area as like the competition, and I think that moves not just like I'm an Overwatch person, therefore I don't like Valorant, but it tends to make people like then look down at your equivalent tournament in other esports. So like the obvious comparison here is game VCT Game Changers, right? How does this initiative compare to something like VCT Game Changers?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and I think you really hit the nail on the head where it's like I would say with all these programs we win together.
Yeah.
They're not by themselves. It's if Calling Out Heroes doing well, then Game Changers going to do well. If Game Changers does well, we're going to do well. And I would say that something that's kind of hard to put into words is that this program does kind of obviously we have a lot of our own like learnings and things, but we're able to see the paths that other equivalent programmings have take their learnings and both their failures and put that into this program. I would say I think something that Calling Out Heroes is doing that's super unique is that we're coming off right off the gate as kind of scoping this as a marginalized gender program. And that's also not just scoped towards competitive. We're hitting some other angles such as talent with casting. And we think that's a really great way where our program is able to be more comprehensive, more inclusive, and hit more areas just to broaden esports as a whole.
And I'd obviously I have a vested interest as a caster here. I'd love to know, firstly, like what the response has been to the caster camp, but more importantly, like where that idea came from, because VCT Game Changers was not the first marginalized gender representative tournament. There are plenty of things that came before that. I don't know that I have ever heard of a similar initiative outside of like individual casters offering some review time that is specifically that focused.
No, totally. Honestly, when I came onto Blizzard, it was already an idea, so I might not be the best
Fine.
person to answer that, but I do know that I think it was like Overwatch. I think Overwatch League specifically does kind of come with some strong gender diversity, but there's always ways that that could be better. And I would say it was kind of that overall look of we took a step back and we're like, oh well, kind of Overwatch and esports as a whole is not super gender inclusive, kind of in the way it's like our demographics of our talent or our players, we're not really matching the demographics of our player base. So I think just that initial like acknowledgement, which I think any esport can kind of confidently say is the case, was the main inspiration. But I think that's a great point that like I would say our caster initiative, I would say a big component of that was Matt Morello and Zoe. They really kind of been championing that part of the program and been
Wow.
really interested in seeing that forward because they both value that specific aspect a ton.
I will say that I think esports, specifically Overwatch, it does a better job of any traditional sport I've ever seen. I think esports are really kind of leading the forefront in that worldwide, and to put the importance on that inclusivity in competition, no matter where you are. So I mean, props to y'all for pushing that forward. I do have a follow up question to where you're talking about that you were learning from other tournaments. What is something that you think you learned not from tournaments like Game Changers, but also from the first iteration of CAH?
Yeah, definitely. I would say there is a ton of learnings, but I would say probably one of the biggest ones is that gender verification is always like the most hotly contested topic in any kind of gender inclusivity program because a lot of it is, oh, are you able to verify someone's gender and are you doing it in a way that is not intrusive and makes people feel good and they want to engage. I would say specifically, we tested a workflow that was kind of my personal learnings. I only mentioned it on the podcast so far, but there was the Overwatch Empowerment Cup in February with Light Ramen and Monkey Bowl's Reflash that I also helped admin before I joined.
Oh, really?
Blizzard. Yeah, I was on the ops team, which was super great, and took a lot of learnings from that one. I would say especially just we tested a verification workflow kind of based on everyone's collective experiences, and we took some learnings from that to kind of implement. And I guess how you say like kind of, I'm losing the word. It's totally lost on me, but it informed the way that we did our refined, the way we did our verification system. Because I think any gender inclusivity program, that's always the hot drama topic. Like someone's forced to give an ID or someone's voice doesn't pass, so they're not able to play, and stuff like that is like, in my mind, pretty horrid. And we don't want people to be ever in that environment where they feel like they can't participate because of certain factors out of their control. So I would say the biggest learning is kind of just taking a good step forward and being confident, and then also just manage kind of like an inclusive process where we're kind of having a good faith with all of our participants on our verification, which has so far proved very successful, and we didn't have any issues in our first event. So that's been super exciting. Sorry, that was a super long answer.
No, I love it. You take so much care with it, and it really shows. And I admire that so much.
I appreciate it.
So I had a thought about this specifically when you said done in good faith. Because one of the things that I see every time somebody brings up a marginalized gender, a gender inclusive tournament, you get chuds in the comments of like, oh, I can just go in and say that I identify this way and roll this tournament. I'd like to think like they say that on Twitter because they think it's funny. They're not actually doing it. Was there any incidents of that? Is that a thing that happens, or is that literally just dickheads on Twitter talking because they can talk?
Right, yeah. I would say we do have some people that are the obvious like bad actors and internet trolls who try to go through our verification process. But I would say most of those are weeded out. People, it's very easy to type on Twitter and just go blah 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 blah, and it's not much else is done. But I would say our verification process is a bit more work, so the average troll kind of gets like there's too much red tape. They're not interested in progressing further. So usually enough red tape kind of pushes out all of these bad actors, and we thankfully have not had anyone, I guess, participate in the tournament specifically with the intention of like proving they can do better or whatever. But I think that's awesome. But I would say that is something that's like a potential concern for the future, is just obviously with these things. And if anyone's followed other programs, it does come up, and you just have to be able to respond to it pretty quickly and just be on top of it.
So what then has the response been? Because again, like I really don't want to focus on like the negative side of this, but there is always backlash because people can be small-minded and stupid. But like, just as a casual observer looking at the viewership numbers on that are publicly available on YouTube, like it looks to have been pretty successful in terms of viewership. Like, has it ticked the boxes you were looking to tick?
I would say most definitely on the
Yeah.
viewership angle. I would say as a benchmark, can't give the exact numbers, but for a comparison, we were looking at, I would say, the Game Changers tournaments. I think for a good number comparison, Game Changers, I think main tournaments get like 20 to 50K, depending on the level of teams. Obviously, like when Shroud's playing, it hits 600K, but that's a totally different story.
Yeah.
But like their tier 2 tournaments, I would say, get in the 20 to 50K range. Game Changers gets an average of 10K viewers. And then for contenders, we get from like 2 to 5, depending on the region, depending on the competition and the meta. So kind of with all of that, that was informing our like what we thought this would get. And we were thinking this would get similar viewership to contenders and maybe a little higher because it's something new and it's on a couple different channels. However, I believe on our final day, we peaked at 28,000 concurrents across
Wow.
all channels, which is insane when you think
Yeah,
about
awesome.
For any like tier 2 tournament, that is phenomenally good numbers, specifically for a tournament that has the potential for, again, people to be dickheads about it. That's phenomenal. I'm so glad that's done so well.
Thank you. We are all so surprised. I mean, honestly, very happily surprised, and especially the fact that this is our qualifier event. I think if you had to contextualize calling out heroes, our qualifier 1 and 2 are like the ODs, and then our final event is the contenders. And for that comparison, it's just crazy that I don't think I've been on another qualifier show that had this high viewership, like in any esport that I've ever done.
It's amazing. Congrats.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think we've spoken about sort of the players, and we've spoken about the program generally for casters. Obviously, there are some things you've got to keep fairly close to your chest because they're not ready to talk about. Is the aim of the caster camp and the continuing, whether it's called Calling All Heroes or something else going forwards, to have casters move through that program and then be in a position to do the qualifier events as well?
I would say that if things kind of line up in a perfect world, that's definitely something that we are looking to explore, because we do want to provide people opportunities to grow and engage with our products. And we think that's a really awesome tie-in where someone who goes through our whole caster camp, they do our Camp of the Casters, they do a real review and then get their hand at casting an actual tournament, I think is an awesome story that's super cool and really helps, I think, bring a lot of people into casting. Because I would say our overall like one big goal is just visibility and equity, and through programs like this, we are able to provide those opportunities and these like both the, I guess, working opportunity and then also the visibility opportunity, just to kind of level their platform and get them engaged with casting as a whole.
I think it's so awesome. I've never seen anything like that. Like really kind of leading the charge. I've never seen a caster camp, where that is pulling people into that degree and give the training and then give an opportunity to go get visibility, go get some hands-on practice with it. It's such a cool initiative.
No, it's really incredible. I'd also say the participation and interest for that, we haven't had it yet. It's on the 11th and 12th, I believe, or 12th and 13th of November. One of those dates I'll figure out later. But the really cool thing is that our interest in the application is also much higher than we anticipated.
Really?
I think we had about 500 people apply to participate,
What?
which is really crazy when you think about just the whole pool of people interested in casting. So,
I don't think there are that many active Overwatch casters at any level in the English-speaking world. Like, that is phenomenal.
I don't think we combined 6 years of casters we would break 500.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow, that's amazing.
No, it's super incredible. And then also like something that just like warms my heart is I look in our Discord and just see people saying, "Hey, I'm gonna hop on and VOD review this Owl game. Anyone want to join?" And I see 2 people in a Discord voice channel for like 2 hours. And I'm just like, "Wow, that's so
Oh,
cool! Like this is
yeah.
what this is for." You know?
Yes. Amazing.
Yeah, wow, that's yeah, I kind of don't have many more words to say how cool of a development that is. 500 people is good luck trying to organize an individual VOD reviews for 500 people. Is all I will say.
I will ask just kind of a follow up. What kind of numbers were you expecting? I mean, I assume this way surpassed the amount of signups you were expecting. What? How many people were y'all anticipating being a part of this program compared to the actuality?
Yeah, I would say we blew it by a couple times. I don't want to give the exact number, but
Sure.
I would say
It's exponential.
exponentially and overwhelmingly higher. And I would say, especially to like what y'all pointed out, the amount of talent that exists is not over 500, and especially the amount of talent who are of marginalized gender identities is especially not even close to 500. So, and it's a lot of folks that are kind of amateur and have always wanted to get involved. So I think that's why we also like it has spread such a wide net when we have such broad interests. Is it's a lot of these folks who didn't feel like they could become a caster. And I mean, my own personal thing is like I'm a transgender woman and I don't like my voice and I don't want to cast because of that. And I know many people are probably in a similar boat where they're just not as comfortable, but we're kind of giving them this platform where they're able to feel comfortable and then do want to engage with it.
Nobody. Okay, at first, nobody likes their voice. You are not alone in that. I think you would be a wonderful caster. You're clearly very eloquent, and I mean that's very intelligent. Like I think you'd be a wonderful caster, and I'm sure that goes for a lot of people out there where you don't think that you'd be good at it, or if you don't like the sound of your own voice, you are not alone. Like that is like every caster I've ever talked to.
Yep.
It takes a couple of years to get used to hearing yourself and not just like wanting to go bury your head in the sand from hearing your own voice. So that I think that's just
sometimes that never goes away.
But yeah, that is absolutely normal. We all feel that. So wow, it's so impressive.
I think I don't want to talk like I'm an expert here because clearly as a cis man, I'm not. But specifically on the being content with your voice thing. Obviously, that's a deeply personal thing, and some people who have reached a level where that is their voice and they're happy and they couldn't be happier with it. A big part of being uncomfortable with it is if you are female and you have a deeper voice, there aren't that many casters in the world like that, and so having someone to model yourself off, particularly when you are just starting out as a caster, I think is a very, very important thing. And if you don't have those people on the screen in front of you to go, oh, I would like to be more like this person, sometimes you never get that impetus to change. So, we need initiatives like this to put you, Bailey, in a position where you can go, I'm finally going to get that final infinity gem in the crown of working in Overwatch and be a caster as well as a manager and a player and a coach.
Love it. That is, honestly, that helps me not feel as alone with that. So I appreciate it. I think that's also such a cool call out. Like, this isn't the point of this, but something I've always heard when I do my own personal voice training is like, find a voice that you like and imitate it. So it's literally the exact same advice you're giving. It's just applying in a totally different field because, like, my voice used to be really low, like very low. So it's always funny for me, like, look back onto it. But I don't really have a lot of people in esports that I could use as inspiration. And I think the only very famous figure who's a trans talent, I think is I'm forgetting her name. I think Emmy from Rainbow Six.
Yeah, Fluke.
Fluke.
Emmy.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they're incredible. But
like a phenomenally good caster.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. I was actually just thinking about her earlier because I think just as we were about to go live, Rainbow Six, the official Twitter account for the Rainbow Six esports thing, was retweeting her Halloween pictures and making some sus comments in a good way with the obvious buy-in of Emmy. But yeah, Emmy is a fantastic role model for people in this kind of position, and I have met her a couple of times at LANs in the UK. Super approachable, really nice person. And so, like, if you were in a position, I don't want to please don't go flood Emmy's inbox and tell her that I told you can, but like, she would be more than happy if you reached out to her to say like, oh yeah, here's some advice, here's some resource. Like, she's genuinely a really nice person.
That's so wonderful to hear.
I'm not sure we intended to sit on the casting side of things this long, but obviously you're in a
talking
podcast
to
with
three
three casters, so this is a spot that is particularly close to our hearts, and I'm just loving it. I'm just loving it.
So if I can drag us back to a slightly different tack here, when we were doing our Themapalooza series, and I said I don't want this to be like an extension of that. This is its own thing, but we gave people the opportunity to talk about like what their journey has been like as a trans person in this community. Because one of the reasons for this entire project is that gaming esports is not always and frequently isn't a welcoming place to people who maybe don't present as you would expect them to present. Have you ever found, like specifically because of your trans identity, this to be a particularly hostile space?
Yeah, I would say that unfortunately, when I was really involved with competing and coaching,
Mhm.
I was uncomfortable being who I was, and I think a lot of that was my own personal battles with my self-identity and maybe not as much outside factors, but I think that esports as a whole can be a little unwelcoming to people who are transgender, and that's also, I think, the world at large. So not
Unfortunately.
entirely, yeah, not entirely because of esports, but I think it is just a difficulty that comes up. And I would say that something that is like a small micro example was that when I was coaching, I used to have a very deep voice and I used to present masculine and not openly be transgender because it commanded more respect. And that's the saddest thing, was just that
Mm,
me talking in a much deeper voice got much more respect and people listened to me. And then me talking in a more feminine voice unfortunately did not. And for me, that was something I always like mentally struggled with. And I think it was a bit of a, I put myself in a box, so the box became true, if that makes sense.
yeah.
But I would say for a lot of people, I think they come to similar issues where their identity kind of impacts the things they want to do. And I would also say, like, in general, I felt like sometimes the environment can't be as inclusive, so you're not as comfortable being yourself. And when you're not yourself, you don't perform your best.
Yeah.
When I would have scrims, I would be constantly thinking about my voice instead of the game, and that's not what any coach should be
Yeah.
doing. I want to be able to put my 100% brain power towards the game, towards my team. But
Yeah.
if have half the time I'm thinking about my voice, I can't be a good coach. If that makes
Yeah.
sense.
What it sounds like, again, as an outside observer, is playing whilst pretending that you haven't got a spike in your hand. Like someone has driven a nail and you're like, no, it's fine, I'm just going to play.
Yep.
It hurts, but yeah. And so seeing other people playing with that have pulled that spike out for themselves and are making a success of it, I guess is such a big part of why we need initiatives like this.
100%.
What when did you realize that, and what was there a point where that wasn't a concern anymore?
Yeah, I guess I say that I took a step back from coaching just because of some general life things to also move on to a different path where I started getting involved in like the operation stuff, which is what I currently do for my job. But I would say in general with players, it was, I think, a bit of an after effect of like I took a step back and I was like, oh, I'm always working with 15-year-olds on teams. And then I get to the work environment and all my coworkers are like late 20s or 30s or 40s. And it's a very different environment and people are a little more welcoming.
Yeah.
I would say overall, I've worked across a couple industries. Before esports, I worked in real estate. So it was a very different
Yeah.
field. But even then, like real estate wasn't super inclusive, but esports as an industry is like insanely inclusive. And I would say like I didn't fully realize all of that until I was working at East Star Studios, which is a production company
Mhm.
based out in Vegas. That was my last job before I came to Blizzard. And I would say being there, I had a very, very welcoming like team and accepting environment. And as I came to accept myself, I kind of realized like how much of like the nail was just in me, and I was totally ignoring it. I was like, oh wow,
Yeah.
I could just be myself and not really worry about it. And then when I looked back in the past, it was like, oh wow, I was very much changing my behavior or not being able to be focused because I was being someone else. Those kind of things. And I would say a lot of people are like that. I would say myself included. I've heard a lot of examples of players who, especially male to female transgender women, where they are playing on teams and they're worried their teams are going to judge them or treat them differently if they become transgender or explore their gender. I think this has gotten a lot better though. I think the amount of people and contenders who are trans or of LGBTQ like identities is massive these days, and it's just only getting better and bigger, and every single person just helps the next person. And sorry, I've been talking. I would go on.
No, you
like,
have the floor, please.
Yeah, this is totally about giving you a platform to talk about things that you think are interesting. But I wanted to explore a pet theory, and there's a chance you have the demographics information here to back this up. As a person who is like, I am observant of other esports, even if I'm not a close follower, I feel like Overwatch as a competitive scene is, if not over-representative of the transgender community, has a larger population than a lot of other esports, at the very least a larger open population. And I think even though we do still have some hostility from some corners, it feels to me like, because of the nature of the game and the broad range of people that play the game, we maybe are I don't want to say like we're better than other communities, but like I feel like there is maybe a more accepting edge to Overwatch, and I wondered if you had any thoughts about that.
Yeah, I don't have the specific data, but I think it's also a very easy way to just like count another esport that has a very popular person of marginalized gender identity at their highest level of esports. There's not many, and even in their amateur scenes, not at all. I think especially the most recent contenders tournament is very diverse compared to other tournaments. It's just a great success for the game. And I would say like that's something that we personally identified too, is we think that like Calling Out Heroes can be so successful because of the demographics of Overwatch. It is such a diverse game. A lot of people are comfortable being themselves, and I think the game, in a weird way, I'm not a developer, but I think it like has the tone that is very supportive and progressive and just makes people feel comfortable. And then I would also say I think the Overwatch community at large has just grown like very far. I would say in like the past 3 years, I think the amount of representation across like all identities is just crazy, and it's only getting better and bigger, and it's really cool. It's so great to see, and I think it's just going to continue to get up there. And I would say a lot of it, I think it's like a snowball. It's like the very small, it's just it keeps getting bigger and bigger, and it's so awesome.
I mean, there's certainly things that it could be done to plus, but it seems like the hero roster itself in the game of Overwatch kind of shows that it takes all types of people. It takes all types of people to make a team and to move mountains. Like I don't know, like that's
totally.
Yeah, I think an interesting, funny comment here from Paddington, who is, if you don't know Paddington, they are now an admin in the Map 5 server, and generally incredibly helpful person. Yes, it has a shocking amount of us getting into it by accident, so I would agree. And yeah, thinking back to Palooza, the number of trans non-binary people we spoke to, that's just like, I don't know, just here I am in Overwatch, here's the chain of events, and I just sort of stumbled into it. There's clearly something about it, right?
Totally. And I would say like how I got into like what I do currently with all the ops stuff is a total stumble. I was friends with Jane's IRL friends through Overwatch. I met them in a quick play game. Through that quick play game, I then joined Jane's server, which was Elo Hell, and that's why I'm number 6 on the join list, was because of those random friends I met. And then eventually, like, hey, Jane's doing a subscriber tourney. Do you want to help run it? And I was like, sure. And then I kept doing them and doing them and doing them. And then eventually we started doing more and more and more. And then I became the event director after like 2.5 years of doing stuff with them. And it's really small stuff of just like, hey, it'd be really cool to run a Koth Ilios only tournament for an entire day. And it was kind of miserable because people played Koth 20 maps in a row. But it was funny. And it's random stuff of just like, hey, do this. And I think a lot of people are like that. And I would say one of the big goals for me in this and with Calling All Heroes is that we want to make those opportunities of just you fall into it. Like, hey, there's a Calling All Heroes event this weekend. Want to sign up? And that for me, that's kind of why I want to have our current format is the way it is, because it's a little conducive to there's multiple opportunities to play, there's more ways to engage, there's this reoccurring competition of you missed the first one, oh, let's play the second one. We didn't make it in the first one, let's play the second one. Or, oh, I'm busy this weekend, but there's one in a month. which I think is so cool that there's just
Yeah.
these multiple opportunities there where you can be spontaneous. You and your friends can be like, oh, I want to play an Overwatch event. What's happening this weekend? And then through that, they find the community and blah, blah, blah. It all just the more ways that people can get involved just helps it grow.
And before you know it, you're a project manager at Overwatch League. So a tale as old as time.
That's why I think that Vancouver Titans move is so amazing, because
Yeah.
it just expands the reach of that and saying, hey, I mean, you didn't know how to find a team? Come sign up. We'll build a team. Like, we'll get you on a team, get you playing with other like-minded gamers.
So I think even if the Vancouver Titans thing is a one-off where they give you a team name and some support to compete in the first iteration of this, even if that's as far as that goes, if that is the only thing that you do, being able to say like, oh, I was an official player for the Vancouver Titans CAH roster is such a cool thing. Like,
Yeah.
again, even if you never play another game of, we appear to have lost Bailey. I hope that is just video and
Oh.
not audio too.
Did I might have broke something.
It's fine. We've got you. We've got your audio, so at the very least you can chime in. But yeah, like it's such a cool thing to have on. I don't think people put these things on resumes, but to have on your resume.
Totally. And I think it's like such an incredible way also for them to bring their brand to Calling All Heroes, and just people who aren't normally like following maybe the Calling All Heroes news are following the Titans news. And through that they find out and are able to kind of engage with the program. And I would say these brands just help bring so much. Something that I think Game Changers does exceptionally well is they have all these endemic esports brands involved in the product. So people who are like fans of Cloud9 go, oh, Cloud9 is a team playing this weekend. What's this? And then just through that, they find the program.
Yeah, there are definitely ways to like build out this ecosystem so that it's a little more like more things feed into each other and sort of bring more people into the product as a whole. As maybe that's a slightly too mercantile way of looking at things, but yeah, the better the symbiosis in these, the better it is for everybody, regardless of your gender identity and what level of play you have for the game.
All right, we're getting this video issue fixed here real quick. So
I'm just scanning down our list.
Yep.
Scanning down our list of questions here, Jeff, and Bailey, it's looking like we're kind of coming to everything that we had on our mind to talk to you about. So I guess the one that we've got left here that doesn't currently have a there we go. Welcome back, Bailey. We can see you on camera again. Obviously, your job takes you to a few different subject matter areas. What's been your favorite part of this job? Again, you've only been in 7 months. Maybe you've not got a favorite yet. But what's the best part of your job?
Yeah, I would say that. Oh, I think I'm echoing 1 sec.
Yeah, no problem.
I think that might be we're getting some extraneous noise on Billy's end. Looking at who's flashing green here.
I think she just needed to mute an OBS Ninja.
Am I good now?
You're good. You're good.
Okay, wonderful, awesome. It's not a podcast about tech issues, So.
Oh, of course. Oh yeah, no, it's par for the course here in particular. Don't you worry.
It was going too smoothly. It's about time we had something going.
Yeah, we had to have a
That's
little
true.
scuff. Yeah.
Oh, super unrelated, really funny moment. During the Calling Out Heroes broadcast, I in our production channel was like, we had a bunch of crashes from Overwatch servers and yada yada, and I was like, oh, it's so great that the stream match hasn't crashed once all day on broadcast. Within 5 seconds, the stream match crashed. Just because I say that and jinxed it. It was the funniest thing.
They've given you too much power, Bailey.
I've heard of caster cursing, but not PM cursing.
Right. No, it was so great. We joked that I was cursing the whole show because everything I was saying, oh, this team's definitely gonna win. They have the better players. They lose. It was just, the entire rest of the day I kept jinxing it to the point that Bailey, just don't say anything. Yeah, but I would say I think your initial question was about my favorite part of the job. I would say I've come through amateur esports through Elo Hell, some other production companies, and I've done a lot of different roles trying to make it work. And I found that ops and PMing is kind of my angle, just how I got here. But I like to be able to support other people in that same journey. And for me, amateur esports is the coolest thing. OWL is super cool. but I think being able to support the community and make these opportunities for people to engage and just through programs like Open Division or Calling All Heroes, there's more ways to get involved in esports. And I think supporting that grassroots to me is always like, it's the most feel good, about any kind of thing you do. And it's just so incredible because you're also able to get really down to earth, see people's feedback, talk to people one on one. I would say with Overwatch League, a lot of our programs are a little harder to get that down to earth feedback. Still, Overwatch League is awesome, but with all of our amateur programs, I'm able to kind of get my hands dirty with them, which I always find fun, and it's cool to talk to those people and do all that.
Well, it's kind of falling back on your strengths and getting back to your roots a little bit as far as esports is concerned. So that's really cool. It makes a lot of sense.
Totally.
I mean, that actually feels to me, Bailey, like a pretty nice place to leave that. It's a nice, hopeful note. Unless, of course, you've got anything else that you wanna talk about. Otherwise, we'll start to wrap things up.
No, yeah, that sounds great for me. Unless y'all have any burning questions for me.
I don't think so. Just to say thank you again for joining us. It's been a really, really interesting, really enjoyable conversation to have. And yeah, we look forward to keeping on interacting with you as long as that's possible.
Yeah, always be super happy to join another one and talk to anything. But yeah,
Yeah,
thanks so much for having me.
Not a problem. You'll be welcome back anytime.
Absolutely. Really appreciate you taking the time. Do we have a T2 tweet of the week?
No, we don't. Because I am a hack and a fraud. I can go and get you one if you'd like. I know what I have in mind. If you wanna vamp for like 20 seconds.
I mean, the timeless one is pretty good. If you got something better in mind, I will absolutely sit here and vamp for 20 seconds.
I do. I have a thing that I think is very good.
Yeah. Go find it. I'll take this moment to tell you all that we are not going to be having an episode next week, as most of us will be out of town or just now getting back into town. We are going to make the trek and go to Anaheim and enjoy some Overwatch League playoffs. So with that said, we will be taking a break on the following Monday, but don't worry, we'll be back on the 14th. Recapping everything. We got Korean Contenders will be going on. OD will have wrapped it by then. We're going to have lots to talk about.
Yeah.
And my birthday's next Monday.
Oh, is it? Oh, we didn't know that. Oh, heck.
What's next Monday?
My birthday.
Oh,
no,
well, there you go.
Next Tuesday. The 8th.
Well, everybody wish Billy a happy birthday for the next week.
Happy 75th birthday, Billy.
It's 25th.
No, maybe we'll have a look and see if there's anything suitable to get you as a birthday present whilst we're there. No promises or anything.
I think
I do have my tier 2 tweet of the week. We normally go for something a little bit silly, but I think it's worth highlighting just like a cool teachable moment thing from a fellow caster currently casting the dizzying heights of contenders NA and EMA. Of course, the one and only Eren Kenobi Urki, which I think is a really interesting breakdown of specifically why this is such a good meta for the Hangzhou Spark. I do think Kenobi is a singular analytical talent in his role as a caster here, and if you would like to learn more about why the game plays the way it does, you'd be best placed by going and giving them a follow and checking out some of their thoughts on this.
Kenobi's one of the biggest brains in the scene, just period.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And this is amazing. I'm not going to take time to break all this down, but yeah, it's a thread that just goes into some nice little detail. This is a good find. Good find, Phil.
There we go. Only a slight bit of a hack and a fraud this week, everybody. Which I guess all that is left to do is for us to wrap things up. So thank you again, Bailey, for coming and joining us. A lot of fun having you on here. Looking forward to the next chance we get to do something like this. Thank you, as always, to Glitch for letting us use her remix of the King's Row theme for our music. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks. And we'll see you at Grand Finals.
Let's go. Bye, friends.